Welcome, everyone. My name is Jacob. Thank you for joining me. This is Hunt Detail, and today we're going to continue our conversation on broadheads. Last week's show, I dove into some expandable mechanical broadheads that I had shot into some ballistic gel and really was trying to evaluate them based on how they penetrated, how they opened, and sort of the wound channel that they created. I created a wound channel ratio to evaluate that. And again, that is just one data point at one particular point of time. And it was, me as some redneck in my backyard shooting into ballistic gel. So please don't take those results as the gospel truth. It doesn't mean that Broadhead A is worse or significantly better. It's just my evaluation of them and me sharing those results with you. But it's obviously a lot of fun to look at new broadheads. There's a lot of new broadheads out there, and it sort of makes me think about the limited options that used to be available years ago. I remember in the 90s when I shot my first buck, I was shooting the Thunderhead, and I believe it was 100 grain. That probably, like most heads, was probably 100 grain. And the Thunderhead has a very what it focused or what it emphasized was the slim ferrule, and then it has a chisel tip, and I can't remember if it was a 3 or 4 blade, but you could replace the blades. And I'll be honest with you, if I put that in a fancy package and did some fancy marketing around it, you would not think it's any different. Or you would think, "Oh my gosh, that's a great looking head. I'm going to buy it." It really was and still is a fantastic head and probably as good, if not better, than some of the things that have slick packaging and slick marketing behind them. I mean, I have one of them in my shop, and unfortunately, I don't have the blades for it. Now that I think about it, though, I think I might try to see if I can find blades for those for that online or something, because I think it would be really cool to pull that head out, sharpen it up, and shoot it, quite honestly, because I think it's as good, if not better, than what's out there now. But as we look at what's new out there now, a lot of them are have different steel. They're made of different types of steel. They have a different. They might be a hybrid head with a fixed and then a mechanical or expanding blades, and so it really captures our emotions and our imagination about what. Oh my gosh, I have this shiny new amazing broadhead that will do things differently than any other broadhead I've ever shot. It would leave a great blood trail, and even if I make a bad shot, it'll put the deer down quickly. And obviously, that's probably not the case. It's probably not going to be much different. It's really about how well you shoot and where you put the arrow and how well you anticipate where or visualize where the best shot opportunity is going to be. That's probably has more to do with it than anything, but there is a real fascination with broadheads. I certainly have them. I have more broadheads that are unused that are in my basement than I'll ever use in my lifetime, and it's turning into a real problem, quite honestly, because I need to start I need to start shooting more deer, specifically more does, in the early archery season. Because what I find I end up doing is passing on does because I'm thinking, who knows, there might be a nice buck coming through, and then ultimately, when I do want to try to shoot a doe, it's later in the season they become more skittish. It's just more they're more difficult to get on uh, in December. So, anyways, we're going to talk about new broadheads today, and we're going to talk about broadheads in general. Before I do, I wanted to mention I wanted to share with something with you all from Sports Alliance, our Sportsman's Alliance, and this is I have no sponsorship with any organization, period, but certainly by not with Sportsman's Alliance or How or some of these other organizations out there, but this just caught my attention, and I wanted to share it with you. The total number of lawyers that are employed by these anti-hunting organizations like the Humane Society of the United States, the American Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, the Animal Legal Defense Fund, Sierra Club, Earth Justice, Center for Biological Diversity, Natural Resources Defense Council, Southern Environmental Law Center. See, they have these great official names, right? They don't sound like they are anti-hunting organizations, but they are. And total number of lawyers is over 500 lawyers. And I heard some folks talking about this the other day, that these anti-hunting groups, they play the long game. They're patient. And they are they are after a lot of things, and they will take their time and they will chip away at this over time. And so if you aren't following these organizations on Instagram, like a Sportsman's Alliance or a Howl, and if you're not a member of these organizations, I would encourage you to do so, because it's just not going to stop. And we certainly have to punch back, and we have to fight back, and we have to support these organizations because they're doing the things that we don't have the time and bandwidth to do. Do I have the time and bandwidth to drive, to the Capitol Hill and fight against some of these things? No. So I am giving my dollars to these organizations to do that on my behalf. So there's my little plug for Sportsman's Alliance. Give them at least a follow so you keep in tune to what's going on in your state as it relates to anti-hunting efforts. But again, I'm not sponsored by any of these organizations. I just think it's important for all of us. So back to Broadheads, again, I have a fascination with them. It kind of reminds me of when I was young or younger, and I would get, baseball cards. I was into baseball cards at the time, or um, Hot Wheels or cars. If you were ever young and you sort of had those, and there was this sort of fascination with those things, or maybe it was a certain video game that you got. I don't know what exactly the parallel is, but sometimes when I see these Broadheads, it sort of captures your imagination of like what could be. And so this year, there are some new Broadheads that I just wanted to highlight that sort of have captured my attention in terms of things that I'm not necessarily sure I'm going to try them, but I thought they were interesting enough to talk about. But the one of the things that I've mentioned before, and I'll talk a little bit about today, is the different types of steel that Broadheads consist of these days. So, all of the expandables or mechanicals, for the most part, consist of a stainless steel. They have stainless steel blades, some sort of like 400 series of stainless steel. And if you think about those blades, like even like when I was talking about uh, the older Broadheads, that they all had stainless steel blades, and one of the benefits of that was that you could get those razor sharp, like the Thunderhead, like I mentioned. Even though it had replaceable blades, you could still sharpen that Broadhead using either some sort of tool that has sort of a sandpaper grit to it. I use some Work Sharp products to sharpen my knives and my Broadheads. Or, of course, you can replace them, but you can get them to like really scary sharp, to a point where if you just put your finger on it and just pull your finger across that blade just a little bit, you can immediately tell that it's grabbing and starting to slice. And I appreciate and want that type of cutting, that type of texture on my blades, on my Broadheads. I want them to slice through things with the greatest of ease. And so as we as we look at broadheads for this upcoming year, if you haven't already figured out which one you're using, and if you have one you like already and you don't want to change, obviously that's awesome. There's I am looking more and more to those types of broadheads that are stainless steel blades. Now, what are the drawbacks of that? Well, that um, they aren't as tough. They might, they hit bone and maybe they bend or break. That's obviously something you don't want to happen. They they just aren't nearly as I mean, maybe they're disposable, I think is maybe the better term for those types of blades. And, I understand, like, hey, I don't want a bunch of disposable one-shot broadheads, or I have to replace the blades or resharpen the blades or whatever. I want it to be tougher. And so you on the other side of this, you have a lot of these broadheads, especially with, the heavy broadhead, the single bevel broadhead that are made out of tool steel. And so you have A2 tool steel and S7 tool steel and D2 tool steel. And so some of those broadheads would be like your iron wills, your cutthroats, your Valkyrie broadheads, Crimson Talon, VPA broadheads. Those are some that come to mind for me that are made out of tool steel. Now, I've shot the iron wills, I've shot the cutthroats, I have both of those. I think those are pretty much the only two that I've shot that are made out of tool steel. And my problem with that, with those types of broadheads, is that can you get them sharp, and are they sharp? Yeah, they're sharp. I mean, they're gonna cut through things, but they don't have a scary sharpness, an edge to them, and that's scary. That's really cutting a very smooth way as it, in my opinion, as it travels through a deer, or even if you put your finger across it. I mean, I've taken brand new iron wills, brand new cutthroats, brand new whatever that have a tool steel. They became quote unquote sharpened, and you can press your finger on there good, and it's not cutting you. And so, and it's not shaving hair on your arms. And and so I work very hard to put an edge on it, and I get it even a little bit more sharp, and then I can get it to a point where it's starting to cut some hairs on my arm and shave my arm, but it's still not scary sharp. Now, you can you can say, well, Jacob, maybe you don't know how to sharpen broadheads, and maybe you're right. But I just feel like I need something that is gonna. I understand over the long haul that maybe this broadhead is more expensive, but over the long haul, I'm going to be able to use it more and more and more. And I understand that it has, it's going to have maybe hold a better edge once it hits bone, whereas a stainless steel blade, if it hits bone, it's probably going to lose that edge pretty quickly. But I have more confidence in the stainless steel broadheads, or the blades on the stainless steel blades on those broadheads, than I do in the tool steel. And so with some of the fixed, I mean, we talked about expandables and mechanicals last week, but with some of the fixed blade broadheads that have those types of that 400 series stainless steel blades, the first one that comes to my mind, and this one does well in every test that you see online. I don't think there's any video I've ever seen where the Quad Exodus broadhead has underperformed. And those are 400 series stainless steel blades. I believe they're replaceable. Certainly you can resharpen them. They're relatively thick blades, I believe, and they're incredibly sharp. I do have a set of Quad Exodus. Unfortunately, they're a 100 grain head, an older head of mine. and I'm shooting with the 125s these days. So another one is the new archery products or the Nap Meat Freak, and then I believe the Slick Trck one piece is a 400 grade or a 400 series stainless steel. And so the Slick Trck one piece is a lot like some of these single bevel heads, like the Cutthroat or the VPA Omega, where you have this single piece of steel and it has these offset single bevel blades. And I believe that the Slick Trck does offer that. And I believe that that is stainless steel, so it would be something that you could shoot and be confident in, and then resharpen on the other side. And the folks that make the tool steel heads, they're going to say, well, again, if you it's going to stay sharper longer than a stainless steel blade, and that may or may not be true. I mentioned bone, but if it's not hitting bone per se, like forget about a rib, I'm just saying like a shoulder, if it's not hitting bone in that way, if it's just going through ribs or whatever, I'm still gonna put my money on the stainless steel bladed broadhead. But enough about that. That's sort of my thing. That's sort of my soapbox. Another head that comes to mind actually is the Magnus Stinger, and I have shot that broadhead. That's again another fixed blade broadhead, like the Quad, like the Meat Freak from Nap, like the Slick Trck. That is a made out of a stainless steel, 400 series stainless steel that could be resharpened. And it's a solid head. I know a lot of people that use that head and have a lot of great luck with it. So there's 4 new heads that I thought were really interesting for that came across my radar. And so I just wanted to talk about a couple of them. One is one that you may have heard of. It just came out. It's the Sevr TI Hybrid. It's a 1.5 inch, I think, well, it's a 1.5. Now, on the website, they say it's a 2-inch cut. But ultimately, what it is that if you think of the Sevr, it still has those expandable blades that lock when they fully come out. And what Sevr has done is added a bleeder to the front of the broadhead. And so you sort of have maybe like a 4-blade cut. Now, the bleeder is obviously significantly smaller. It's a thicker steel, clearly, than the other blades that expand. But I think it's interesting to me. I've had a lot of folks have had a lot of luck with the Sevrs, and they like them. I like them as well. I shot a buck last year with a Sevr 2.0 and worked well. But I thought that I would share that one because that is hot off the press. That's a brand new one that you may want to take a look at. I think it's about $20 a head, so they went up in price on that one. Another one is the Ozcut Creature. Now, Ozcut makes a couple different broadheads, and one of them, or I think the one I'm most familiar with is, I think it's called the Hurricane. I know they have that's a 3-blade, and then they have a 2-blade, I think single bevel broadhead. And the Ozcut Creature is a hybrid head. It has a fixed blade on the front that is it almost looks like an iron will, quite honestly. And then it has an expandable, sort of a forward opening expandable dynamic also built onto it. And so it says it touts a 2.5-inch total cutting diameter, and the expandable bleeder blades are 1.7, 1 3/4 inch expandable bleeder blades. So it's interesting. I don't know It's one of those broadheads you look at, it sort of captures your attention, and it looks like something that could be relatively effective. It offers something different where you have a fixed head plus, so you have the cut on contact fixed head plus the expandable blades. And so I thought that was interesting. Not sure if it's something that I'll use, but definitely something new. Another brand of broadheads that I came across this year was from a company called Evolution Outdoors. And so when I talk about hybrid heads, so I talk about the hybrid, the Sevr TI hybrid, the Ozcut Creature is a hybrid head. This is another one that most of what they sell are these hybrids where you have, it looks a little bit like the Creature in the sense that you have a big cut on contact broadhead at the front, and then you have these forward opening blades that expand upon impact. So one of them is called the Whitetail Fury, one is called the Hyde, and I think that those are interesting looking broadheads. I don't like forward opening expandables. I talked a little bit about that last week. So here you have what the Creature, the Oscar Creature, has a forward opening expandable, and now you have the Evolution Outdoors also forward opening expansion. But they also have a uh, Jekyll and a Jekyll Dangerous Game, and those I believe are fixed blade. They're four blade fixed, and they're sort of offset. And interesting looking heads. I encourage you to check them out. I have no experience with them at all. And so the last head I'll discuss is one that is I saw when I was at the ATA show. And so I did a series of videos on the Hunt Detail channel, three, I think, looking at products from different companies at the ATA back in January. And I would encourage you to go check those out. There's climbing sticks, there's different packs, all sorts of different gear from different saddle hunting companies and just regular gear for the everyday hunter. So, but one of the companies that won an ATA award was Annihilator Broadheads, and they had put out, or they were promoting a two-bladed broadhead called the Katana, and it was, I believe, it was single bevel, but it had in the middle along the ferrule two additional sort of blades protruding on each side of this two-bladed single bevel broadhead. It was almost like a little scoops, almost a little like these two little blades made like a little scoop along the ferrule. Now, it won an award. Again, I think it came in third place for new products or something like that. But I do not see it on their website. And so I don't know if they're just holding off on putting that out or if it's going to come out later this year to be available. But I don't see like a coming soon or anything of that nature. But I think that was one that was interesting to me. I wanted to take a closer look at it. I think when it comes to these two-bladed heads, I think they're great. And then when it's a single bevel, I think it's great because theoretically and ostensibly that they sort of rotate as they go through. I mean, I've even felt it with my own, like with the cutthroats. I know that it twists because when I try to pull it out of the target, it's difficult because it's not something that's just uh, stayed static. It's twisted as it went through my foam target. But I would like to see more of the sort of the bleeder blades or something else to add to that cut to add more damage than just the two blades that are on it. So, and that's why I was interested in these Annihilator Katana broadheads. But may want to keep an eye out for that or for those broadheads. But Anyway, it's an exciting time where it's sort of the pre-game, if you will, as we are in the month of July. There's a lot to be doing, a lot to be thinking about. There's e-scouting, there's getting cameras out, there's spotting in the evenings for deer as that new growth is happening and they're in velvet. So enjoy this time and appreciate your help and support. Please like, share, subscribe, and talk to you next week.